Now at 9, police in Baxter Springs, Kansas say they've seen an increase in imposter scams in the area. Plus, we'll hear from a business owner in Knoll, Missouri about the impact of Tyson closing its plant there. And it's only been a week of school in Joplin, and already there have been complaints about drivers not stopping for school buses.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Tanya Bach. The Federal Trade Commission processed 2.4 million fraud reports in 2022 with an $8.8 billion price tag. According to the FTC, identity theft and imposter scams top the list. The criminals in the case I'm about to tell you about are still active, and for that reason, we've decided to keep our victims' identity hidden.
They said that they were so-and-so from the fraud department with Chime, and that we've seen fraudulent activity on your account.
An account owned by this woman, who we will refer to as Letitia. It started with text messages on Letitia's mother's phone telling her someone had made criminal transactions with her card at a Big Lots and transferred $35 to an inmate. Her mother immediately started calling her bank, but couldn't get through. That's when the phone rang.
So she brought the phone to me and was like, they're asking for you. It's your card that's being hacked, not mine.
But it wasn't Chime's fraud department on the other end of the line, and Letitia's card did not have any fraudulent charges yet.
The first one was to an All-Star Liquor and then a Shell station.
The scammers on the phone with Letitia the entire time.
While I was on my phone, doing my banking app, watching my money just come out.
Until her account was drained.
It did seem legit, and these people are going to seem legit. They've practiced their scripts. They have scripts that they're reading from, and they're training new people every day to scam people out of money.
Officer Randa Andrews with the Baxter Springs Police Department says imposter scams like this are becoming all too common. According to the Federal Trade Commission, for every 5 imposter scam attempts, at least one person loses money.
Anywhere from $250 all the way up to, several $1,000s.
And those dollars add up. Kansas reported more than $40 million in fraud losses last year. Oklahoma, nearly $55 million. And Missouri topped $83 million in fraud losses in 2022.
Some of these people don't work anymore, and that's their retirement.
From pop-up ads online to long-distance social media connections, Officer Andrews says scammers will find a way to get to you. The most popular, though, is through text and phone calls. Her best advice, just hang up. Fortunately for Letitia, after filing a police report and a dispute with Chime, she did get her money back. As for her scammers, Officer Andrews tracked them to Florida and is currently working with Orlando police to identify them. Well, scammers don't just target the elderly. According to the FTC, in 2022, younger people reported losing money to fraud more often than older people. However, the average dollar amount lost did grow as the victim aged. Officer Andrews and the Baxter PD will be hosting a scam prevention class next Saturday. That's this coming Saturday, September 2nd, from 2 to 3 p.m. at the Baxter Springs City Hall. It's open for anyone to attend. You can find more information on the class, plus helpful scam prevention tips on our website, KOAMNewsNow.com. We are finally getting some bearable temperatures outside. Meteorologist Sam Lane joins us with a first look at weather.
That's right, Tanya. It's been a wonderful day across the area. Started out this morning on the chilly side with lows in the 50s and lower 60s, and then this afternoon bright sunny skies allowed temperatures to rise into the mid to upper 80s, especially out to the west where it was 88 degrees in Howard today. And we're looking at temperatures now dropping down into the 70s and 60s up in Garnett right now. So another nice night shaping up across the area. It is not a nice night though in the southeastern Gulf of Mexico, where the hurricane is developing, and you can see the central dense overcast, or the CDO, the convection developing around the center, starting to form an eye now, and unfortunately that's going to be taking aim at the western coast of Florida over the next few days. Thank goodness Category 4 Hurricane Franklin out in the Atlantic is really not expected to cause any problems for anyone. All right, let's take a look at the temperatures tonight. Dropping through the 70s into the 60s by about morning, 61 degrees. And looking down the lane, we have more cool mornings in store. Warm afternoons, a dry week ahead. But unfortunately, the heat wave may be making a little bit of a comeback, and I'll tell you more about that in just a bit.
All right, thanks, Sam. A new law in Missouri will take a more hands-off approach to the way you drive. The sit-ins banning hands-free law goes into effect today. The new law prohibits handheld cell phone use while driving, and it's not just cell phones. It's any electronic communication device like pagers and tablets. There are specific exemptions in the law for drivers communicating in emergency situations, emergency first responders, and other emergency roadside workers, and for hired drivers. Penalties for violation of the law will be enacted beginning January 1st, 2025 to allow adequate time for public education. Well, now that there are more school buses on the roads, drivers must stay vigilant when students are boarding them. KOAM's Amber Jenkins has more.
My son's favorite part of the day should not be taken away because other people cannot follow the law.
Every morning, Danielle helps her son board the school bus to start his day.
Issues with people passing our bus with the lights flashing, literally the lights going, my son going up the wheelchair ramp, and it's just the lack of caring.
Danielle requested the Joplin Police Department for assistance. She said they told her the department is too understaffed. However, she believes a police presence will help the issue.
Literally just drive by. I haven't even asked them to stop and patrol. I have not asked them to sit at the park. I have asked them simply to just have a patrolman just do a simple drive-by. It doesn't take that long. It's a 5-minute process. They won't even give us that.
Danielle is trying to spread awareness of the issue by posting on Facebook.
What is it going to take next? Someone else getting hit?
The dangers of the roads don't just stay on the asphalt, but it can also affect neighborhoods. The residents here say the quality of driver that's on the roads does affect their way of living.
Myself and my neighbor, who live very close to her, have about 16 children between us. That's not even including the other side of the road. It would be great if they could put up some more signs to try to slow people down or patrol the area more. That's what I would suggest.
Sometimes I wish somebody could sit over there and get some tickets going, because they're just not, even if they put speed bumps in, I don't think it will help.
And it's not going to stop until it's addressed, sadly.
Reporting in Joplin, Amber Jenkins, KOAM News.
According to Missouri law, illegally passing a school bus is a Class A misdemeanor. First-time offenders found guilty could have their license suspended for 90 days. The USDA is investing nearly $50 million to help utilities in rural Kansas build and improve clean drinking water and sanitary wastewater systems. Some of that money is going to local projects. Neosho County Rural Water District Number 4 is receiving nearly $11 million in loans and grants to build a new booster pump station and storage tank. More than $16.5 million will be used to refurbish the water system in Girard, and the city of Humboldt is getting nearly $13 million to replace piping, hydrants, and meters. Less than a month after Tyson announced the closing of the Knoll plant, local businesses and housing programs in the area are already feeling the impact. KOAM's Fernanda Silva has the story.
In almost 3 years running Bob's Hometown Pizza, Lynn Parrish is getting ready to face the second major crisis of her business.
We made it through COVID. We'll make it through this somehow.
She says about 80% of her clients are somehow related to Tyson. With the closing of the plant, she's sad to see some of them already leaving.
We've had several come in that they come in to eat one last time because they're already moving out of the city.
Bob's Hometown Pizza is not alone in seeing people go.
About 27% of the families that are impacted by the No Housing Authority program are Somalians who work at the Tyson plant. While the program is not going to be impacted financially, they will be impacted emotionally.
We are subsidized by the government, so technically financially it won't hurt us. We've grown, I've actually really grown to love our Somalian community, and it's going to be difficult for us.
According to No Housing Authority, out of the 27 Somalian families that are part of the program, 5 have already given notice that they're moving at the end of October. 2 are moving in January.
There's several that have come in and just kind of said, hey, I don't know if I'm moving yet or not. I'm trying to find a job locally, but if I have to, I'm also looking elsewhere.
Even with all the uncertainties that lie ahead, the local Chamber of Commerce is looking at the situation with optimism.
It gives the whole city of Knoll a whole opportunity to kind of reinvent what they are, what they do. Prepare to weather a storm. And doesn't mean the storms don't last forever. You know, it will get marginally a little bit worse, and maybe a lot worse for some businesses depending on what business you're in. But at the end of the day, if we can keep most of these people here with better paying jobs, that actually bodes well for their business in the long run.
Parrish shares a similar feeling.
It's gonna hurt for a while, but I think in the long run it'll be okay.
In Knoll, Fernanda Silva, KOAM News.
McDonald County Chamber is organizing another career fair for those looking for jobs. That event will happen on September 28th. Top-ranked pickleball players from around the world descended on Pittsburgh today. The Pickle and Pit event included a Play with the Pros game, pickleball clinic, an exhibition match, and signed autographs with some of the top-ranked pickleball players in the world.
For being number one in all events, because obviously everyone's trying to take you down all the time. So it has a little bit of pressure, but it's also pretty exciting to be number one in a professional sport when we didn't ever think we would do this. So it's just really fun to do that.
It's really cool.
Well, proceeds from the event will go to maintenance of the Jack Johnson courts and new pickleball programs at the Four Oaks Sports Complex in Lincoln Park. Coming up, the pandemic impacted learning at schools nationwide. We'll see if government funding has helped. The head of the CDC suggests maybe waiting a few weeks before getting another COVID-19 shot. Dr. Mandy Cohen says updated vaccines targeted against recent variants are expected to be available this fall. However, Cohen says the unvaccinated and those who are vulnerable may not want to hold off, and she recommends talking to your doctor about what's best. Despite getting $190 billion in COVID money, schools across the country are struggling to catch up from pandemic-related challenges. Between March of 2020 and March of 2021, Congress authorized the money for K-12 schools, about 6 times what they receive from the federal government in a normal year. But education experts say problems remain. And hundreds of thousands of children across the U.S. are losing their Medicaid coverage, even though the experts say the vast majority continue to qualify. In April, states regained the power to kick off those deemed ineligible for the health insurance program, and that's when a pandemic relief program expired. According to the KFF, at least 5.4 million people have since lost their Medicaid benefits. Meteorologist Sam Lane is next with a complete look at the forecast. And later, how Missouri Southern is preparing for its first football game of the season on Thursday.
What a difference the weather has made over the last few days. Cooler air, drier air, certainly more comfortable across the area compared to last week. Let's take a look outside right now at Seneca, Missouri, to Indigo Sky Casino and Resort. Mostly fair skies tonight, and the temperatures are starting to fall quite a bit because of all that dry air. In fact, we made it up to 85 degrees today in Joplin, which was 3 degrees away from the normal, so we were below normal for the day. Isn't that nice? And also that 57 degrees this morning was pretty nice too. And unfortunately, we're still way behind on the rainfall. And right now on radar, there's nothing to be found in our local area. We're having to turn our attention way down to the south to see any really big storm activity. And here is the hurricane that everyone's talking about, Idalia, and it's going to be moving towards the north. Hurricane warnings are in effect for the Big Bend area of Florida. That's where landfall is expected, but the storm surge is going to be way out ahead of it. And then you add on top of the fact that we're going into a blue moon and a super moon, and it's coming ashore at high tide. All of those things spell disaster for the Big Bend area of Florida. So hopefully those folks are taking the precautions and evacuating low-lying areas, as most of this is most of a swamp anyway. Franklin is not really going to cause a problem. It's a Category 4 right now, but not really expected to do too much. Here's the path expected. As it moves towards the north, it's going to be intensifying as it does so. That's another negative factor. And also there's a lot of warm water off the west coast of Florida, so rapid intensification could occur. So it's definitely going to be a storm to watch. Nothing like that in our area. Instead, we're left with mostly fair skies and nice temperatures. 69 in Pittsburgh right now, 70 in Iola, 75 in Veneta for one of the warmer readings, but still everyone is pretty pleasant. And what's really pleasant are these lower dew points. Look at this, upper 50s and lower 60s. Certainly a far cry from the upper 70s and low 80s that we had last week. We are seeing a few 70s in there, but at least it's still comfortable right now, and that's going to stick around for the next couple of days. Rainfall chances are going to be pretty much close to zero for the next 36 hours, and all of that is because we have a ridge of high pressure off to the west. This is the heat dome that we dealt with last week. And unfortunately, it looks like it's going to try to make a comeback as it moves into our area. But the good news is there is a little bit of a weakness in the ridge right here. And as a result, we probably will not be as warm as we were last week. So that's good news. And tonight we're going to see lows in the upper 50s and lower 60s across the area with light variable winds. Then tomorrow, partly cloudy skies with highs in the 80s and some lower 90s, especially in southeast Kansas. Then as we go into Wednesday morning, lows still in the 60s with northeast winds. And then Wednesday afternoon, pretty nice. Temperatures in the mid 80s across the area. And then Thursday morning, look at this. We're back down into the upper 50s for lows and lower 60s with light variable winds. Over the next 7 days, we're going to see dry conditions all the way until early next week. So we definitely need some rainfall. And look at the temperatures. They're going to start getting back into the 90s. But Tanya, at least we're not going to be dealing with the really oppressive dew points. And that will make a difference.
Yeah, that'll be nice. We can bring that humidity down a little bit.
We got to keep the humidity away. We'll take the heat, but just not the humidity.
Yeah. There's a big difference if you have that humidity and yeah. But I'm loving these temperatures.
Yeah, me too.
I might actually feel like mowing my yard now.
Oh, get at it.
All right, thanks, Sam. Well, coming up, a high-profile date is set.
A new trial date just announced for former President Donald Trump, and it comes right in the middle of primary season. I'm Rich Edson in Washington with a look at those legal proceedings coming up.
A federal mortgage lender says the national housing market could be in a standstill for a while to come. Fannie Mae economists have revised their housing market forecast and now predict the current market could be stagnant into 2024, regardless of possibly avoiding a recession. Fannie Mae says existing home sales will stay subdued and in a tight range. Existing home sales fell 2.2% in July. Sales of previously owned homes are down 16.6% compared to the same time last year. Well, the annual trek to the summer rental spot is down this year across the country. Many noted summer hotspots from Cape Cod to Southern California are seeing a drop in visitors and vacation rentals. That's according to rental experts. Industry insiders say many people bought second homes during the pandemic and turned them into rentals, making for more properties to rent, but also during a decline in demand. Well, a major airline upgrades its abilities to help passengers with onboard medical emergencies. Delta Airlines says it's going to add new technologies and processes to aid passengers in medical stresses. One technology, MedLink, will give crews direct access to doctors on the ground through a mobile app. New wearable technology will transmit data via Bluetooth and Wi-Fi. Up next, we'll learn how hunters in Mississippi reeled in this record-breaking reptile. Hunters in Mississippi spent 7 hours reeling in a state record this weekend. The group caught a monstrous 802.5, get it right, pound alligator measuring more than 14 feet long. The gator set a new Mississippi state record. The reptile was caught as part of an initiative to keep alligator numbers down. Public gator hunting season runs from August 25th through September 4th. That's a big boy. Yeah. 30 more minutes of news, weather, and sports coming your way. Coming up, a trial date has been set in Donald Trump's federal election interference trial. We'll learn why the date is so significant. Plus, President Biden is pushing back against allegations of corruption on the investigation into Ukrainian company Burisma. Donald Trump could be on trial and not on the trail, his legal woes potentially impacting his 2024 bid. And we're gleaning more information about how some of these proceedings could go down. A judge just decided a trial start date of March 4th for the federal case looking at election interference. Fox's Rich Edson reports the latest from Washington.
Another courtroom appearance for former President Trump's legal team. Trump faces 4 criminal investigations and 91 charges, a complicated tangle of court proceedings in the thick of election season.
I can tell you that it's to tie him up. It's definitely political.
Monday, Judge Tanya Chutkan set a trial date for his federal case on charges of election interference. The prosecutors, special counsel Jack Smith's team, are requesting a trial date to start in a few months. Trump's lawyers want it delayed for more than 2 years, until after the presidential race.
Both sides not getting their way is probably going to happen quite a bit.
Also Monday, in an Atlanta courtroom, former White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows tried to get the state case involving him, Trump, and 17 others moved to federal court. Prosecutors charged Meadows and those other co-defendants with racketeering for conspiring to overturn election results in Georgia. Meadows' legal team argues since he was acting as a federal official, he should be tried in a federal court. It might give him a somewhat more favorable jury pool and keep the trial off camera.
There's definitely an argument to be made about switching venue to federal court, but in the end, it really won't change matters all that much, except that the trial won't be televised.
Meadows' co-defendants will likely be watching this hearing closely. If a judge moves Meadows' case to federal court, the other defendants could go to a federal trial with him. Former President Trump will be arraigned in the Georgia case next Wednesday. In Washington, Rich Edson, Fox News.
President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris today met with organizers of the 60th anniversary of the March on Washington and members of the King family. President Biden said hate is on the rise in America and that silence is complicity when there is, quote, a whole group of extreme people trying to erase history, end quote. He also said America is at a potential turning point toward hate.
I really think this is a critical time. We have groups, a significant minority, but I think they want to change the direction that we've been working on so hard and making such significant progress on for so long. We can't let it happen. We just have to speak to it.
A recent report by Pew Research Center found U.S. adults were about evenly split when it comes to progress on racial equality in the last 60 years. Ukraine's former top prosecutor says President Joe Biden got him fired because he was investigating Burisma, where Biden's son was a well-compensated board member. Fox News correspondent Lucas Tomlinson has more from Washington.
I do not want to deal in unproven facts. The fact that Joe Biden gave away $1 billion in U.S. money in exchange for my dismissal, my firing, isn't that alone a case of corruption?
The White House pushing back strongly on Shokin's accusation in a statement, quote, a former Ukrainian and prosecutor general whose office his own deputy called a hotbed of corruption, drawing demands for reform not only from then Vice President Biden, but also from U.S. diplomats, international partners, and Republican senators like Ron Johnson. President Biden's re-election co-chair says he supports the appointment of a special counsel to investigate Hunter Biden, but says Hunter and Trump are not his focus.
We're not going to comment. We're not going to focus on Donald Trump's legal problems.
On Fox News Sunday, Joe Lieberman, one of the founders of the third-party group No Labels and the Democratic vice presidential nominee more than 20 years ago, says his group intends to move forward with a nominating convention in April. Here's the reason why, he said.
63% say that they're open to a moderate, independent third choice. The American people don't want to just have to vote for Trump and Biden. And
the biggest issue facing voters, according to a recent Fox News poll, the economy, of course. The average American family spent over $700 in July for the same goods and services as it did 2 years ago. That equates to more than $8,000 a year if the trends continue. At the White House, Lucas Tomlinson, Fox News.
FEMA is awarding $3 billion to help build resiliency against extreme weather. The agency has already approved one project that would combat extreme heat by planting thousands of trees. Other communities have been awarded money to upgrade their energy grid, install new sewer mains, and elevate homes in flood-prone neighborhoods. The money is coming from the infrastructure law Congress passed last year. A bit later, as millions of Americans open their wallets to help relief efforts in Maui, authorities are sounding the alarm about fraudulent activity.
Well, we had a nice cool morning across the area with temperatures in the 50s and 60s, and the nice weather is going to continue for at least a little bit longer, and then summer might make a return, but we'll get to that in a moment. First, let's take a look outside right now at Seneca, Missouri. Indigo Sky Casino and Resort, a beautiful night shaping up across the air with temperatures starting to fall now down into the 60s. We made it up to 85 today, which was below the normal of 88, so that's nice. Check out the low, 57 degrees this morning. We weren't near the record of 49, but hey, we'll take it at this time of year with those temperatures. And over the last 36 hours, you can see that the trend has been mid-80s in the afternoon, then we get down into the 50s, and then today we got back into the mid-80s once again. Unfortunately, there's nothing really on radar in our area. Instead, all of our attention weather-wise is being focused down into the southeastern Gulf of Mexico, where a almost hurricane, it's just below hurricane force right now. On the next advisory, it probably will be a hurricane, and she's going to be moving towards the north, and as a result, hurricane warnings are already in effect for western parts of Florida. Right now, it's around a Category 1, but it's going to be strengthening as it continues to move to the north, coming ashore as a major hurricane in the Big Bend area of Florida, and unfortunately coming ashore at high tide during a supermoon is not good, especially with all the warm water in eastern Florida. This could rapidly intensify and become a major problem. No problems here though, just nice weather. We have dew points in the 50s, which is very nice, and lower 60s, a few 70s sprinkled in, but not too bad. The dew points being low is what's making it feel so comfortable out there, and that's going to continue for a little bit longer too. Rain chances, unfortunately, are going to be on the low side for the next 36 hours and beyond, because we have a ridge of high pressure that's out to the west right now, but it's going to be building back in across our area over the week. And as it does, the heat is going to return, but not as bad as it was last week. We're still going to get warm, but there is a little bit of a weakness in the ridge, and that will be just enough to introduce some clouds and maybe some scattered showers and keep the humidities down just a little bit. Temperatures tonight are going to be very nice, in the 60s across the area, and then tomorrow partly cloudy skies with highs in the mid to upper 80s, even a few low 90s out to the west. And then as we go into Wednesday morning, lows again in the mid 60s and a few lower 60s as well. And then Wednesday afternoon, not too bad. Generally temperatures in the mid to upper 80s. And then as we go into Thursday morning, a reinforcing shot of cooler air and drier air will send us back down into the upper 50s, especially up towards the north, and lower 60s elsewhere under light variable winds. Over the next 7 days, partly cloudy skies through the week, with temperatures slowly rising as we head towards the weekend. Maybe an isolated shower on Sunday, but I wouldn't hold my breath. And then as we start early part of next week, we'll be in the lower 90s, which is above normal for this time of year, but also a chance of showers and storms too. But what we don't want is a return to 80 dew points and that oppressive heat index. And I don't think we're going to see that. It'd be nice if we had some tropical moisture from those systems, but it looks like that's going to miss us too.
Yeah, that would be nice to have though. You talked about the how cool it was this morning though.
Oh yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, I knew it was gonna be cooler this morning, but I stepped outside to take my kids to school. I had to go right back in and grab a jacket.
It's refreshing.
Yes.
We'll call it refreshing.
And that was nice.
Yeah.
Well, you were talking about Tropical Storm Idalia, almost a hurricane, now headed past Cuba and into the Gulf of Mexico. Forecasters, like Sam said, expect the storm will hit Florida's Gulf Coast Wednesday as a major hurricane. Voluntary evacuation orders have already been issued north of Tampa, and emergency officials have urged residents to keep their vehicle gas tanks at least half full in case they need to evacuate. Coming up in sports, Missouri Southern football previews its matchup with the number 6 team in the country on Thursday. Plus, Carl Junction softball is off to its best start in over a decade. John Dales has highlights from their home opener tonight and more coming up next.
The college football season begins on Thursday for Missouri Southern, and the Lions are excited to get out there and prove just how much better they've gotten since going 4-7 in the 2022 season. Now this afternoon, head coach Atiba Bradley, along with a couple MSSU players, took the podium to preview an opponent for the first time this season. One of the areas that the Lions are very excited about heading into 2023 is the improvement of second-year quarterback Luke Sampson.
Just been so pleased with his leadership, his poise. You can see his feet are quieter. He's throwing the ball in some really good windows. He has all but eliminated some of the mistakes that he made the last 3 games of the year. And so I think he's ready to take a big step from year 1 to year 2.
Not that our defense isn't good, but our offense has looked really well throwing the ball around and playing catch. That's one of our fundamental things as an offense is just playing catch, and that's all it is. You're just throwing the ball to each other. So we've had a good connection with the whole group.
Carl Junction softball began its season with a weekend tournament, but after going 3-1, the Bulldogs suddenly are off to their best start since 2009. This evening, they're at home against Cassville. Bottom of the first, Aubrey Stouffer gets a strikeout for the Wildcats. That Carl Junction offense would heat up, though. Bottom 2, Maddie Old smashes one to left field. That'd get over the left fielder's head and cause some trouble with the sun. That drops down, and she hustles around to third. That's a triple in there safely. Now 2 batters later, Izzy Southern steps up to the plate and unloads on that ball to right center. That'd get over the fence and out. Gone for a 2-run homer, her first of the season. That put Carl Junction up. To the bottom of the third, hard contact continues to be a trend. Kinley Spindler knocks one up the middle. She reaches safely. Bulldogs win this one going away. 8-4 final score. They're off to a 4-1 start. Meanwhile, just a 15-minute drive away, Nevada and Webb City also playing this evening. Tigers played 3 games on Saturday. In those 3 games, they only gave up 1 run total. They get it done at the plate as well, though. Top of the 5th in this one. This RBI single by Kalea Johnson, part of a 4-run inning, give the Tigers a 5-1 lead. Now on the mound, Peyton Eaton, a machine in this one. First, quick reflexes on this line drive bunt. Right back to her to get the out in the bottom of the 5th. Tigers get into a little bit of trouble later in the frame. Mackenzie Wynn reaches safely after this bobble at shortstop. Calm, cool, and collected though. Eaton fields the grounder in the next batter, goes over to first, escapes the jam, gets out of the 6th with no harm. She'd go all 7 innings, only allowing 3 hits, picks up her 4th strikeout to end it. Nevada wins 5-1 on the road. That's all for sports. We're back with more news after this.
People across the country are stepping up to help victims of the devastating wildfires in Maui. But authorities are warning about potential fraudulent activity around donations. Fox News correspondent Marianne Rafferty has more on the steps you can take to make sure your money goes to those who need it the most.
Thank you, sir.
Community members across wildfire-ravaged Maui are still reeling with grief as recovery efforts slowly get underway. With scenes of the despair becoming clearer, people across the country are extending a helping hand to those who have lost everything.
I'm trying to raise money to help my auntie and uncle rebuild their ancestral home in Maui.
Cheryl Dorsch is one of many Americans organizing fundraisers to support wildfire victims. Dorsch sparking up the grill in her Sacramento home, selling barbecue chicken and pulled pork sandwiches. Neighbors quickly coming out to donate, with the money going directly to a family displaced by the wildfires.
I always like to help the community wherever I can.
So much has been lost in the historic town of Lahaina. More than 2,000 structures have been destroyed or damaged. If you want to support rebuilding efforts, fundraising experts say it's a good idea to do some research first.
Identify organizations that are already working on the ground and helping families in need. You can also look on other websites, third-party websites that provide ratings of those charities.
But as donations flood in, the Department of Justice is warning about scam artists targeting the generosity of Americans.
The good news here is that if you find out that there's fraud, whether it's a gift that you've given or someone else you know has been affected by this, you can actually report this to your Secretary of State.
Fundraising experts say addressing the needs of wildfire victims will take some time. If you want to help, they recommend making monthly donations instead of a one-time contribution. Marianne Rafferty, Fox News.
Well, coming up, it's a big week for Fox's TV lineup. Find out what's on the schedule next. Fox's Out of This World competition wraps up this week while a big cooking competition keeps heating up. Here's Fox's Ashley Dvorkin.
Find out who wins it all on Stars on Mars. Here's what's hot on Fox. Monday starts with the season finale of Stars on Mars. The 5 remaining crewmates face a double extraction. Then the 3 stars left compete in a double-phase mission. A HAB manual trivia and a satellite tower assembly are the tasks at hand to take the title of Brightest Star in the Galaxy.
Hi, chefs.
Hi. That's followed by an encore of MasterChef United Tastes of America with the tag team challenge preparing a 3-course meal. Tuesday starts with Beat Shazam and teams of friends, scientists, and sisters-in-law battling it out for $1 million. Then it's an all-new Don't Forget the Lyrics hosted by Niecy Nash, with a musician and a grandma belting it out to match the notes for $1 million there.
You're challenging to elevate.
Wednesday, it's a new 2-hour episode of MasterChef United Tastes of America, with guest judge MasterChef Season 11 winner Kelsey Murphy. Challenges for the chefs include a fish mystery box and catering to sports fans while incorporating elements from their region.
Nebraska.
Coverage kicks off Thursday of Fox Sports College Football with Nebraska versus Minnesota. Then Fox Sports presents more WWE Friday Night SmackDown to kick off the weekend. In Hollywood, Ashley Dvorkin, Fox News.
That's our time for tonight. Thanks for joining us. We leave you with video of a baby tapir at the Brookfield Zoo. Have a great night and an even better tomorrow.